Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, let me share. Yeah.
We're coming up to the end, kind of close to the end here. This is the second to the last chapter, and we'll see what we wind up doing. Okay.
Oh, okay. Dear folks of Baba, I hope you have survived the holidays and still have your wits about you as we delve into the second to the last chapter of Darwin Shaw's Effort and Grace, Spiritualizing Our Lives on page 111. Here he is talking about moving permanently into the level of the spirit and living from there, which requires the shutting down of what he calls the wanting machine. In this state, it is about expressing love in the world around us rather than wanting anything from it. This love can flow out unseen. It does not always have to be expressed outwardly. At the level of the spirit, we experience Baba as the loving doer, and we are merely conduits, as Darwin would often say. Eventually, life just unfolds. We experience it as being orchestrated by Baba's love. He has written, the goal is to achieve perfect inaction, which does not mean merely inactivity. When the self is absent, one achieves inaction in one's every action. The ego is effaced when we realize ourself, our identity as spirit. This is equivalent to bringing the kingdom of heaven down on earth. Or as Kitty Davy often used to say, our work is to spiritualize matter. This is a very gradual evolution. The first intimation of my need to redirect my focus from the ego to the realm of the spirit came during one of the meetings at the Shaws. After reading one of Baba's discourses, those of us gathered were enjoying cookies and apple juice, which Jean would always provide. I was standing near Darwin, and very casually he looked at me and said, you are not the personality self. The truth of his words must have sunk very deeply because I found myself thinking, I thought the whole purpose of life was to get to know myself more and more deeply and go on improving myself until I reached the goal. Here, Darwin was essentially saying that I was barking up the wrong tree. Even though his remark was completely over my head at the time, I filed it away within my consciousness with the idea that one day I would evolve into the truth of it. From time to time, Darwin would say that the personality self is just a storefront for the soul. We make such efforts to arrange the window displays with the changing seasons when we could go in through the door and enjoy the priceless merchandise inside. The realm of the spirit is, so to speak, behind the personality self, which I feel is where Baba is leading us. We come to know we are different from our personality. Ideally, it is merely a vehicle for the spirit, just as the flute is a vehicle for the music of the musician. When we are raised to the level of the spirit, everything is spiritualized. All that happens is seen as a spiritual unfoldment leading toward Baba and our own divinity. As Teilhard de Chardin, the French mystic and theologian, once said, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah.
Thank you.
That oh, we got some questions already. That's good. Or maybe they were left over. Anybody have anything to say about that before we plunge into the discourses itself? A
Well,
sense? Yeah, go
the
ahead.
one, yeah, thanks. Just the sentence that really struck me was the one about expressing love in the world around us rather than wanting anything from it. This love can flow out unseen. It does not always have to be expressed outwardly. I mean, that really dove deep. when I read that, I think, wow, that's really something. That can be. It isn't about getting a result or making a plan or doing anything like that. Any of the things that the mind usually wants to do. So
Yeah, Darwin, you could walk around with him and in the mall or something like that, and he's just radiating love. And most people think just a kind old man walking around, totally, unaware of the gem that was in our midst, so to speak. Because sometimes expressing love outwardly doesn't get the response that is in alignment with with love. Sometimes people get the wrong ideas or whatever. But anyway, anything else to say to that? Or let's go then on to the discourse. Just one thing to say before we begin, that after all these years with Baba and everything, I think we all accept, maybe kicking and screaming sometimes, that there is an animating spiritual dynamic and meaning behind all that happens in our lives. I mean, I think most all of you feel that. And that Baba has given us understanding. And that's a great help because a lot of people feel that they're just random and arbitrary and unkind things that are happening and they don't have some higher purpose. And so it's an invaluable gift I found. It's been hard to accept the things that happened in my life, but I felt behind it that there's got to be some reason. And that makes life a lot simpler, I would say. Not necessarily without pain and suffering, but anyway. So we got to get somebody. Oh, we got. How about Mayor Prasad?
Sure. Spiritualizing our lives. We have to feel in our heart of hearts that only God is real. He alone exists. He is in us all. He alone is to be loved. God and God alone. Meher Baba. Meher Baba is spiritualizing the world, and as time passes, more and more people will, quote, sing the tune of the spiritualized life. Baba's work, not only with his disciples, but with all of humanity, is to raise our consciousness from the bondage of the material realm, where we are caught in the conflict of the opposites, and to change our focus from the exterior creation to Him, to God, so that instead of being dictated to by the opposites, our impulses will be dictated by Him. The new task for humanity is to learn how to begin relinquishing the false self.
And why don't you continue there, Mayor Prasad? Yeah.
Yes. A temple on earth. Meher Baba explains quite a bit about the life of the spirit, not only in the discourse so named, but also in various other discourses. He says, quote, the life of the spirit is the expression of infinity, and as such knows no artificial limits. He also says, when one's true adjustment between spirit and matter is secured, there is no phase of life that cannot be utilized for the expression of divinity. Spirit is our true identity. We really are spirit having a physical experience. whereas most people mistakenly believe that we are a body and that we might have a spirit. Spirit is that part of us that goes on after we drop the physical body, and it is our real life. But when it is tied in with the mind and the ego and misconceptions about values, it can develop cravings and identify with those cravings. However, Baba makes it clear that the physical body is important in the spiritual life. It plays a vital part in the dynamic of spiritual unfoldment. In fact, realization, merging with the Divine Beloved, has to take place while one is in the physical body. When what Baba says about the body is really to be taken literally. If the body yields to the claims of the spirit as it should, it is instrumental in bringing down the kingdom of heaven on earth. It becomes a vehicle for the release of divine life. And when it subserves this purpose, it might aptly be called the temple of God on earth.
Beautiful. Do you folks get a sense of your spirit as opposed to your personality self? I mean, that there's some distance between, some space between you and your personality self. As that, do you get flashes of that, or some experience of that in a way that Darwin talks about? A sense that things are getting orchestrated independently of your who you are. Ah, go for it, Richard.
Well, I'd like to open a can of worms here. So I have my can. So now it's open and the worms are flying around. So I think this is a I think this is a big deal because when I relate to the thought of Christian religion and whatever cosmology comes out of that, I know I'm really limited. But one of the things that comes out is always this separation of, well, when we die, we just go to heaven. That's it. There's nothing else, because that's going to the spirit, or the soul. So I would substitute the word soul in that language for what Darwin uses, spirit. But to get closer to the point, this is a really big deal in terms of Baba. I think I've been trying to figure out for quite a while, and I'm getting there. I think I'm trying, but maybe it's intellectual. But what is the mental body? What is the subtle body? What is the gross body? And I think what I do believe what Darwin's talking about here is those three as one. And if you can remember that, then what Darwin says is making a great deal of sense, because he's really saying there is an authentic self that functions fully and completely at all levels, and it's called the avatar. Avatar Jeff, Avatar Marion, Avatar Diane and Tony. All of us, Baba has given this link with avataric consciousness. And he is completely human. That's where the proof is. The Baba comes to be completely an ant, completely all of creation. So we know that our avatar consciousness is actually just part of him. And he has given us this avatar beyond the mind experience, but we're really limited. I'm really limited in how much I get, I mean, but I think that's the can of worms I'm opening. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, that the consciousness that Baba gives us kind of integrates all the systems, but you're kind of outside of it, but it's all integrated. Yeah, well, we'll just leave that can of worms on the table and see if they come out. Okay.
Tony?
Hi. So I don't know, this may be a little bit off the wall, but it seemed to answer your question about the personality self and the spirit. And last night I happened to see there's some channel on cable that's running The Sopranos, the whole series. And I watched a bit of one episode and I loved that. And I thought maybe someday I'll see it again, from the beginning. It was a few days ago, I guess, but I had a dream the next morning, and I'm walking down this long, kind of a wide sidewalk with water on the side, and there's a big kind of a boulevard. Cars pass by, but there are no cars. And I'm aware that somebody is walking on that boulevard right by my side and is kind of following me. And I'm a little concerned. And so I take out my phone. I have something in my left hand, or it's in my pocket maybe, but I have my phone and I'm thinking he's going to try and steal my phone maybe. So I took my phone and I put it in my pocket and I put my hand inside the pocket, so nobody can get at it without me knowing. And I look over and it's Tony Soprano. And he's like getting a little bit pissed off. He says, not pissed off, but he says, look, if I wanted to steal your phone, I'd have taken it already. He clearly has something he wants to tell me. And I've been grappling with some issues about my art and whatever, and destiny or whatever, stuff like that. So he says to me about how he didn't like how things were going on the set and in his acting career, and he changed it. He changed everything. He put himself in charge of what was going on. He was the CEO now. Now there was no CEO. He was the CEO, but actually he was the CEA. And when I woke up, I realized it was the chief executive artist. And you could see him on the sound stage, and he was going to express that role the way he needed to express it. And he had the power to make that so by becoming the chief executive artist. And I woke up and I thought about it, if any dream with a Tony in it, especially Tony Soprano, is me, is my ego self. I always thought of it as me, but it's actually my ego self. And, Tony and a soprano, he sings. So that's my ego. But in the middle of this dream, he became James Gandolfini, talking about himself as the actor and giving me some guidance that I found kind of really valuable. And I thought about it later. So he was like representing my deeper self, my unconscious self, giving guidance that I didn't have on a conscious level. And it even occurred to me for the first time, because I've had dreams with him before, that he's sort of my Gandalf self. He's James Gandolfini. He's kind of like my wizard self, symbolically, of course. But yeah, it was the guidance coming from deep within, as contrasted with the personality self that sings and acts and does whatever. And then there's the inner self was giving some guidance on how you can align that with your purpose. So it may not be exactly what you were looking for, but it's current.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Anyone else, or shall we let's go on to the next one, unless there's anyone wants to make a comment. Yeah. Jay Sema. Let's have Sabine. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good.
You can throw your voice 5,000 miles. Yeah.
I try. Denizens of the deep. Life is all comprehensive. Mayor Baba explains that in right relationship to life and spirituality, we bring a certain enlightened attitude to everything in life. In other words, we can deal with every facet of life with spiritual insight rather than think of everything as only material. Most of us are living on the surface of the ocean, when we are really denizens of the deep. We have a deeper inner nature where real values are sorted out, and we can become aware of this. We are meant to become aware of this. Our approach to almost all situations has to undergo a change. Our desire nature, our wanting machine, dissolves our values, discolors our values. Throughout our lives, we look for excitement, experiences of adventure, all kinds of varied experiences. We tend to think, what am I going to get out of it? What pleasure is in it for me? So to do something without any thought of getting anything out of it for ourselves is a radical change. When we finally do this, however, we discover that we get real value out of it, real fulfillment. We undergo a change in our psychological understanding and in our process of overcoming our weaknesses. This is all part of our journey through life. True, we can get much help from God or the Master through divine love and grace, but at the same time, we have to learn right valuation. We must learn to see through many of the things that attract and even enslave our minds and our desire nature, so that our heart, our spirit will be free and our inside will be clear. It takes us a long time to funnel through a process of elimination into the real values to become awake to the life within. But it is possible for everyone. Eventually, worldly things no longer attract us and we get free of those entanglements.
Beautiful. Wonderful enunciation.
English.
Not like they are in New York, man. Anything to say to that? Anyone can talk about kind of how they've moved from more of a superficial level to a deeper awareness? Any kind of example of
Is
how
it-
that happened?
That kind of faded away. Could you say that again?
Anybody could share how they moved away from a more superficial approach to life to a kind of a deeper vantage point, a deeper perspective. How Baba has kind of brought that about. Even a small example.
Yes. I will.
Yeah. Marian, go ahead. Marian?
Go ahead, Marian. Yeah. Uh-oh.
You're on.
Something that I have been enjoying very much, because I'm trained in some theater work and I employ some psychodrama. So I use some of the talents Baba has given me, and that is I separate what I call out human Marian, and then there's spiritual me. And so spiritual me, I demonstrate it energetically to someone else, is very expansive and stepping into the void that has never been created into yet, and is just expanding into the oneness. And then human Marian over here, she's very belligerent and she says, I'm not going with you. I don't like going into that unknown and unfamiliar. I don't like it. Even though this is painful here, I'd rather be here with what's familiar. You can't make me, and I won't do it. Then what it awakens me, the criticizer is gone, the demander is gone, because that's from the ego. It's just my higher self and my human self who turns to belligerent Marian with empathy, and says, oh, I hear you. Is there something we can do, like take a little step where you will feel safe and have a little adventure? And then she feels a little, she's, oh, okay, well, let me think, because I'm not demanding that she be different. And so I'm empathizing. So then she might say, well, there is that new coffee shop in the neighborhood with those coconut milk lattes. I'd like one of those. And then I say, oh, okay, we can go do that. And let me take your hand and I won't let go of you. I'll never leave you at home alone. Then what comes to me is this aspect of myself, when empathized with, has a real need. I'm so busy every day with my my to-do list, I need to take a break once in a while and have that latte. And it came from empathizing with belligerent Marion and listening to her. So it's kind of a back and forth dialogue. So that's it.
Beautiful, very clear. Great example. Yeah.
Radha.
I just had a really interesting experience tonight. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
I've been having some sound problems. So I went to hear my husband's guitar teacher, who's an incredible guitarist, and it was a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young cover band who were quite amazing. And you know, this is a band I've always loved, and I love their music. But in thinking about Baba while I was watching this, it became a whole different experience for me. It wasn't just about watching these incredible musicians play, but all of a sudden, the words of the songs, the lives of the artists, the love of the people in the room, all became about Baba to me. And so that was, I love trying to bring that perspective into my experiences. And then when I also, if something triggers me, if I get a button that gets pushed on something that I need to work on in myself, that whatever it is, I'm much more aware. Baba is really helping me be much more aware that it's not really a fun place to be anymore. It's there's these habits and these sanskaras, but by allowing that spiritual perspective, you just see really clearly, well, that's, you know, I've got to sit with this and look at it and push through. So that's how it's helped me and how I've been experiencing that lately.
Yeah, beautiful. You know, I'm reminded, you know, as I've said a number of times here on these Zoom sessions, how Mani, way back when, used to say you have to see things through Baba's eyes. And I just feel it's very, you know, it's been invaluable. As I said, I didn't feel there was an option. But when you know, you're there in this, listening to this concert, and you can slip in and see how Baba might be taking this, or how, you know, and it's a whole different experience. There were a couple of ladies that, you know, were at the center this morning. I was with them, and, you know, they got here and they loved being here and everything. But I was there with them, and I could see how much it meant for Baba, for them to come. They came and they're excited and everything like that. But what about Baba's side? It's not impossible to kind of know how touched Baba is, that these young ladies would come and be in his home, and they come about once every couple of months. What it must mean to him. So it's a different perspective than just seeing it through my eyes. You know, I think, oh, that's kind of nice and everything, but Bob was more touched by us than we would normally think, is my perspective. Yeah.
Jennifer.
Hi, everybody. You know, for me, what I've been able to do lately is to, I've sort of lost my train of thought in thinking about how I connect and feel Baba within me and my spirit and being a part of things, is that I spend more time wondering instead of judging something that's happening with maybe a client or something like that. I can feel this kind of little Baba twinkle of that he knows what's going on so much better than me. And sometimes I feel it more inside of me too, that I've got a little bit more of that, something is getting ready to happen. And I had somebody who came into my office today. She had a terrible thing happen. She ended up in jail, and this huge altercation with her family, and there's been some like domestic violence and family violence in her family. And I'm sitting there as I'm working with her, and I look at Baba's picture, and he's got this little smiling, it's the more formal one with him. But he's got this twinkle in his eye. And, this poor young woman was in jail yesterday and got out. And I just looked at him, and I saw that, and I felt this little joyful exuberance, like something amazing is getting ready to happen. That's not my usual way of looking at things. Sometimes I've been someone who will be like, okay, now you need to do this, this, and that, and talk to this person. But I just had this feeling like Baba's got this, and something's happening. And I felt like I was a part of it, that not that he was necessarily working through me, but I saw it, what was happening from a different kind of perspective than I might have. And it was weird to feel joyful in a pretty, difficult situation. So this looking at things through a wondering, wonder what's going to happen next, wonder what that was about, and waiting for the understanding that seems to come later. It doesn't always happen to be in the moment, right? Something happens to us and we're like, oh my gosh. And then later on, in the retrospective look back, we can see why things happened. But sometimes I think if you keep open to this open heart and wondering, you get a pushed feeling moving forward, like something is happening. And so you can feel it in the moment, and not just retrospectively. So that's just what I'm thinking about right now.
Today that I felt that I was, I was sick and it was hard for me, but I did this for years.
Is that Terry?
I guess they were not on mute.
Oh, okay. Hey, that was great. It's very descriptive, and like I say, those little spaces where you get a kind of wider perspective is really fun too, rather than looking through the same old lens, same old reading glasses. Okay.
Janet?
Yes, hi. I'm not exactly sure how this interfaces with what we're speaking about, but what I've noticed lately is that, when Darwin talks about desires, my desires are not of the physical world anymore. My desires are more like that people behave in a certain way that they may not, my desires are more like, how others are in life, and I want them to be different than that. and at the same time, I can experience that, and my maybe frustration or irritation that people aren't exactly like I want them to be. But at the same time, I can experience the spirit within me that is more feeling of goodwill and lightheartedness. And I'm not sure where the twain doth meet, to be honest with you. They're on different pathways, and I other than releasing to Baba my wanting to control how other people behave and And I don't like that some people I love are getting older, and I don't like that some people, yeah, even my, young people like grandchildren are, I mean, I want them to get older, don't get me wrong, but there's a sadness about that for me too. Missing them as young little kids. And so I guess this is kind of a question in a way, how to reconcile that spirit, the upliftment, the feeling of Baba's presence within us, how to reconcile that with the part of me, maybe others have it as well, that wants life to be a certain way. Not like I want that job or that partner or that piece of furniture, but life itself to be a certain way.
Yeah, clearly expressed. I know Darwin used to, I mean, early on, I think I wrote that down about creating inner space, so that on one side of the inner space, there's your whole reaction, your reactive nature, and that's usually has judgmental and it likes people to be a certain way. And then there's the inner side, which is our responsive side. Like you say, the goodwill and everything like that. And you find yourself between those two. Do you want to give in to the reaction, or do you want to come up with a response? But it's really a great privilege to know that there are these two realms within us. The deeper aspect of us with these loving qualities, our better angels, and then, of course, our reaction. And a lot of our reaction is just kind of narrows life down. Even if they're behaving improperly or selfishly, if we go down, if our consciousness shrinks down to the size of their behavior, we have left the spirit, you might say, and come down to our reactive side. But thank God we have kind of a choice. We can try to favor our better angels. But anyway, does anyone want to respond to what Janet's saying? Because this is, a lot of people are exactly having to deal with that very thing in themselves. Anyone to say something to that?
Like Marian, that's something.
Yeah, Marion?
Oh, hi. Oh, yes, I'll say something very quick. I really identify with what you're saying, and I call it expectations. And I think it's the roughest road on the path is to let go of all expectations. And a very wise teacher said to me years ago, all expectations lead to disappointment and pain. And I said, well, can't I have one expectation? And he said, yes, and it will lead to disappointment and pain. However, don't give up your real need. A real need, and Baba says in the discourses, I will not fulfill your wants, but I will fulfill every need. So using that as a gateway, my expectation, but not giving up the real need. And if it's for somebody to be a certain way, I may need more friendships, more like-minded friendships than I have. I don't know, whatever it is, to stay with the real need, turning over to Baba, getting support to fulfill that need, and using it as a gateway, because all expectations lead to disappointment and pain. So when they come up, I just turn to Baba, because I have a pithy saying, the first step of transformation is observation, not trying to be different. So I tell Baba, and I thought, oh, that explanation brought me closer to Baba to say, Baba, here it is again, an expectation. And it turns into something not so heavy. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I think a lot of us do that, that dynamic inside ourselves. Now, just to say, Diane, are you responding to what Janet said?
I hope to, and apologies for not being muted.
Yeah, we found out a lot about your life, just that.
So can you help me fix some things then, please? I might be piggybacking more on what Marion just said about expectations. I think that for me, I'm going through a huge upheaval in my life right now, not my personal life, my professional life. And I have to step back and realize that Baba's orchestrated this entire thing. It is a plan that I had had for myself, but it's happening not in the timing order that I had anticipated. John Lennon, who is one of my gurus in life, has a line in one of his songs that says, "Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans."
Yeah.
And that's what's happening to me right now. And so I have to breathe in a lot and realize that I'm not in control. Any inkling, that scintilla of other thinking that I was in control ain't true. And what I'm struggling with is the expectations I had of how certain people show up or don't show up, and being disappointed when they don't show up. It's excruciating. And so when you were first talking about Baba, am I saying that Baba isn't showing up? Or am I saying that I'm looking to human beings who it's impossible for them to show up in the way Baba shows up? And for me to just, my wife is saying, right. For me to step back and say, I can't put this on other people. I just can't. It's just humanly unfair.
Yeah. Well said. I know it's the expectation, even expectation just is it's going to get disappointed sooner or later. That's the trouble. And yet, a lot of your expectations, if you don't have expectations, often your expectations get fulfilled. That's the weird thing. I mean, it's having an agenda. It's having an agenda that's kind of pointed and slightly demanding, coming at life rather than kind of softening the agenda, so that love can kind of seep in. Something from the other dimension can seep in.
You know, the ironic thing is I was part of a family business for 8 years called Great Expectations, which was a video dating service. So every day, probably a dozen plus times a day, I answered the phone, Great Expectations. And somebody gave me a headline that I had on my desk that said brutal expectations.
What was it?
Brutal expectations.
Yeah. Even loving expectations, I've found, eventually can get you into trouble too, because you're making a demand on love to follow your loving expectations. Even that, but that took me about 50 years to get to that. Okay, now we get back to Rich, who's been sitting there starving in Colorado.
I've been boiling inside, but anyway, you know, there aren't many demands placed upon me anymore because I don't work, so I'm not employed by someone. But I used to have lots of my interactions with people were mainly structured around work anyway. But I would tend to want to do it my way, not their way, whether I was right or wrong. But lately I've been doing something else. So when I go out and go grocery shopping or meet strangers, I will sort of do a mini confrontation about, hello, who are you? You know, so it'd be like I go and Tony's doing something and I come across Tony and say, well, where were you born? You know, so what I do is, and I've seen this very clearly, I sort of tap into the fact that each of us has created our own illusion or creation, and that's who we are. That's our personality. That's sort of the archetypes and all this stuff. And we're all limited. But somehow in just making the connection, I feel a sense of Baba. And I was in a grocery store and I could step back and really see that this person has all of their own needs and hopes and problems and sanskaras. And it always comes down to that. They've created their whole life out of millions and billions of sanskaras. So I can't judge them. And therefore, I try not to have any expectations in an encounter. But I've been put down a couple of times or ignored, that kind of thing, rightly so. But for the most part, I tend to tap into whatever humor is available to me, and that lightens, that gives levity to everything. But it goes back to what you're talking about, the spiritual, and there must be a spiritual panorama when you get to a point where Darwin, I know he's talking about it, that where you don't see people from this point of view of ego interaction, where it's no longer just about ego, but it's about, I don't know, being a spiritual human. I don't know. I'm not that good at it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is excellent.
Peter? Peter?
Yes, hello everybody. I was looking for a story when I was listening to what seemed to be, I don't know, I'm just relating also, I think what Terry just said a couple moments ago, because sometimes I just feel like a leper. It's that simple, very, very rejected. And when it came to my, I don't want to say, attempt, not trying, but attempts, I actually did it to try to change. It comes back to me that it is in his time, not in my time. And I remembered I was trying to find another story that nailed this issue too, but this is classic Garrett's right here that gives a wonderful answer. It's not a user-friendly answer. It's not one that I love, but it just gives a solution. And it's from How It Was, but that's how it was. What should we do? It says, and I'll go to about, just start in the middle of it. It says again and again, it comes back to the same truth. Live a normal life. All these questions, what is good? What is bad? Should I do this? Should I refrain from doing this? Refrain from doing this. Will it feed my ego if I do it? But if I don't, isn't that simply being selfish? And so on ad infinitum. There's no end to questions and there's no end to answers to these questions. Don't get involved in trying to figure it out. Mayor Baba wants us to lead an ordinary, normal life in accordance with how you are inwardly guided. Do what you feel intuitively prompted to do, but all the time, this should be based on the solid foundation of being his. Whatever you do, whatever you undertake, dedicate it to him. Don't even think, is it right? Is it wrong? Is it good or bad? Is it a strength or a weakness? Just dedicate everything to him. Gradually, dishonesty will fade. Gradually, other things will fade. And more unadulterated love and honesty will grow. Oh, what I was looking for is right past. Okay. You cannot begin with a clean slate, as it were. You must begin from where you are. We all have weaknesses, but analyzing and dissecting our motives, trying to understand whether we are being prompted by selfishness or unselfishness will not eliminate our weaknesses. It will only drive us crazy and make it impossible for us to do anything. The only way to get rid of our selfishness is to go ahead and do something, but dedicate it to him. Now, the second example I was looking for happened to be right past it. For example, say you decide to pick up junk from the street so that the streets will be kept clean and tidy. That is a worthwhile enterprise. So you start to do it, but you notice very quickly that there's a strong desire in you to have others notice you doing this. You find yourself thinking, what a good example I am setting. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this for someone's welfare and people should be grateful to me. Perhaps after a while, you even want to call attention to yourself, or you get angry when others don't notice what you are doing. You may even become resentful that you are not being properly appreciated. Or then again, your ego might fasten itself upon the fact that others are not noticing you. See how spiritual I am, that I'm doing this even though no one is noticing or praising me for it. In short, the ego is very much present. But so what? The ego is always present. It is the nature of the ego to seize upon whatever we do and use it to strengthen itself. So what is the solution? The solution is to simply keep on doing what you are doing. After a while, that initial zeal may be gone. You may lose your enthusiasm. But if you continue, even if it is mechanical on your part, the selfish aspects of your behavior with time will fade. Eventually, you'll completely forget about all those other considerations and you'll find yourself picking up the junk from habit, solely from the desire to keep the streets clean. It honestly won't matter to you whether others notice you doing it or not. You won't expect them to praise you, and it won't bother you if they condemn you. The actions, by being dedicated to him, becomes purified.
Great.
Where was that from?
Oh, I just closed a book. It was from That's How It Was. I think it was What Should We Do?
Yeah.
I'll get it back and
Peter, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Really, really fantastic. I'm so glad you read the whole thing. It's really wonderful,
Yeah.
Peter. Thank you.
It's spot on. I agree. Very, very good, Peter.
See,
Thank
Go
you.
Hair agrees too.
oh, I like a high compliment. Thank you, Go Here. I appreciate it.
Oh, that was
I hope you're picking up some garbage around your neighbors too.
Hey, Jeff, may I ask a follow-up question to do specifically with this? And this, I think, Go Here may relate to. May I?
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. I remember when you were talking about give our worries up to Baba because he wants to do the worrying, and he says, give me the details. And I've noticed this working for me. It's like this is tuned in right to this, is in dedicated to him to get rid of the selfishness because I'm full of it. So, and in the morning, when I did I now begin entrusting all thoughts, words, and deeds to you. Please help me. I'm nervous now. Please help me to be divorced from lust, greed, and anger and all other worldly desires. When I do that, I never used to get anything from it. I never used to feel anything. But after you said what you said, and I think also listening to Go Hair, I noticed in the morning time, do you think that us giving it to Baba like this at any time of day and saying, you please worry about this, please do the details, is the same as the morning prayer that we can do saying, I now begin entrusting all thoughts, words, and deeds to you? Is that the same thing, just at a different time?
same thing. Exactly. You're doing just right. Absolutely. Anytime, whenever you are in enmeshed in something and you don't know which way to go or what to do, Baba, I give it to you. That's it. And then forget about it. Let him take over completely. And you'll see it will fade. It will disappear. It will work itself out, whatever. That's been my experience. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. And so it's the same thing as the morning. And I do notice now when I do it, I take more time. And I think I have to use a physicality where I'm on my knees. I'm like going like this. And I can actually feel the energy moving now. I'm like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. So
Whatever
anyway,
makes
thank you
feel
very much for that.
And it means the world to Baba.
Yes, it does.
It really does. There's the line you're thinking of is Darwin wrote this down as Baba was dictating it. Don't worry, let me do the worrying. I enjoy working things out. There's no need for you and I to worry. If you are going to worry, then I won't worry. But the valuable line is, I enjoy working things out. So when we worry, we rob Baba of something he actually enjoys, working things out for us. That's how I interpret that. And that's been helpful. Because when I find I'm worrying, I'm thinking, if I find myself deeply worrying, I'm thinking, I'm robbing Baba. I only got a few options. He's got like thousands of options, and I'm robbing him of something he actually likes to do. So, let's go on to the next passage. How about let's get Marta. She's working in the world all the time.
Work in the world. Mayor Baba's discourses show us how to diminish ego consciousness and develop detachment. These are skills allowing us to be busy and efficient outwardly, yet free inwardly, retaining our spiritual consciousness and identity. We can be very active outwardly and very active inwardly at the same time. We put our thought level on our work in the world, yet keep our feelings on God within. I found, especially through the years when I was working, that I could keep my mind on my job, but my heart could still be free, and I could still be in contact with Baba within. I could feel close to him through the heart center. So I would think of him by feeling him. Just as we can learn how to juggle 3 oranges, so can we learn how to keep our heart open while putting our mind on our work. It is like being in love with someone. While working in the world, one's heart remains focused on one's beloved.
Yeah, beautiful. Anything to say to that? There's the line that Darwin, Baba gave them in the early years. Maybe Mayor Prasad can remember, or Tony. I will teach you how to be in the world, yet be at inward communion with me as an infinite being. Something like that. Who knows that?
That was pretty much it. I read that in Kitty's book, from Kitty. But yeah, pretty much just what you said. I will teach you how to be in the world while at all times being in touch with me as infinite being. Yeah, I
love it. Yeah.
I even wrote a song about it back in the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have you sing it at the end.
I don't remember it. Wasn't good.
I just noticed Marta has new ears.
Anyone to say? I mean, that's beautifully what he wrote. And Darwin, I noticed when I moved up there, kind of serendipitously, that here's Darwin with all these great talents. I mean, he could have been almost anything. And I was, raised like most of us to try to fulfill all your, your abilities and your talents in this world, kind of. And here's Darwin. He went about 2 rungs up on the ladder of his work experience, not utilizing his abilities in the least, but he was not tempted to keep going higher and higher up in this in his work situation. He was able to stop and find a place where he could fulfill his need to work, for earn a living, and at the same time keep always in touch with Baba. He wasn't, because I would have been programmed just to go higher and higher, and then I would have been so overwhelmed that I wouldn't have been able to remember Baba very well at all. So it made a deep change on me. Like, what is this guy doing? He is such a presence, and he's just doing really kind of a dumb job, you might say. I hate to say that, but I mean, Darwin would have said it was something that didn't a kind of mindless job that didn't tax his consciousness so much that he didn't have room to think of Baba or feel Baba. Yeah. Okay. So anything to say about that section, or shall we go on to the next one?
Jeff, I want to mention one thing what you just said. This is Marta. Just to hold the other side of what you just said, someone can be very, very climbing the ladder of success in work and still be very focused on Baba also.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not to say one's better than the other. One might be a little easier than the other because you don't have a lot of things pulling at you. But I'm just thinking of Mayor Prasad and the times he's talked about his work and stuff and all his responsibilities and actually I think Mayor Sagar too. They have jobs where they have a lot of responsibility and people working for them and pulling on them, like Diane. But to think of Bob in the middle of that too is no small feat.
Yeah. Yeah, what you say is exactly true. I was just kind of talking about how Darwin handled it, but someone, can be, well, an actor or an artist, like Lynn Ott here. He was focused on his work, even if he, well, say an artist who's not necessarily painting Baba, but is painting. So there's every reason also to fulfill your talents to the hilt as well.
Tim Busfield, who became an actor on TV, and Tim Busfield.
Yeah, he was my old roommate. Great guy. And somebody knows him fairly well here, but I won't mention. Okay, let's go on. Let's see. Let's have Radha read the next. Radha, do you have your sound on?
So sorry. Here we
Yeah,
go.
okay, good.
The exercise of meditation. Before meeting Meher Baba, I used to meditate a great deal, mostly through inner seeking and dying to myself within. Many people approach meditation as a means of attaining something. For others, meditation itself can lead to a blissful state, but not union with God, because they empty the mind of everything, even an awareness of God. When we still the mind, we get bliss, but not God. So we have to keep our minds just active enough to keep our minds on God. One of the meditations Meher Baba suggested was that we try to wake up Baba within and make him conscious of who he is and what he is within us. It is a curious thing that just thinking about him and tuning into him brings great light to one's inner consciousness. And with this comes a sense of inner security. Strive to realize the significance of Baba's omnipotence, omnipresence, and omniscience. If he really has all these qualities, what does that mean in relation to our spiritual unfoldment? Contemplating this can open up a great realm within each one of us. Because if he is all these things, he is able to do miraculous things within us.
Beautiful, yeah. This is that discourse is a bit on the esoteric side in some ways. Can anybody explain it? I mean, there are things that he's saying there that in meditation you're not thinking of God. I mean,
Is he talking about our attachment to bliss a little bit?
yeah,
You
there's,
know, it's like Baba has never described the path to God consciousness as being in bliss all the time. We know that everything that happens to us is part of that path, and the pain that we go through is part of that awakening. So that's kind of how I connect with the passage there, where, you know, in meditation, it's almost like we want to numb ourselves. Maybe that's not exactly what I mean, but
remove ourselves a little bit.
yes, remove ourselves. Whereas maybe it's just keeping the eye on the prize. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a very good explanation. Because, you know, I found that when I would experience bliss, which I decided not to continue, I couldn't really empathize with others.
Oh,
I
interesting.
lost that doorway that connected me with others. So I had an expansive life, internal life, but it wasn't very expansive at the level of the world. You know what I mean? So you can't enter into the lives of others. So I decided to go for misery. No. No. Okay.
Well, Jeff, I think this is really crucial. This is almost like when they discovered nuclear fission, you know, for Baba lovers. This paragraph is really, he's starting to really nail it, you know, for us. How do we release the energy of that Baba fusion into our daily lives, you know?
Yeah. Bring the spirit into you know, what we do. And yeah. Oh,
Go ahead, Prasad.
Yeah, I thought, I think what Darwin is saying in this is generally when you try to meditate, people would basically put their mind to rest. Basically, you have no thoughts, no feelings. So that basically puts you to sleep. But if you turn your thoughts to Baba instead, as you think of him more and more, I think the heart will start to awaken to his love. It's not a love generated by us, but the heart starts to respond to his love that is coming from him. So I think when you do that, we won't go into the sleep, but we'll actually, the heart will become active. And it's not possible to go into sleep at that stage. I don't know if that's what he's trying to say, but
yeah.
I would tend to think that that's what that paragraph is probably referring to.
Yeah, beautiful. And in that state, you get intuitions from Baba or promptings to Baba, so that you do have an active life. You know, your heart goes out to situations. Yeah. So shall we go on to the next section? Let's have how about Peter? Are you able to access the reading there?
Yes, sir. I said, let me see about putting a smile on for a moment, see if I get selected. And then all of a sudden my name was called. Thank you. Okay, take me with you. Mayor Baba says, things that are real are given and received in silence. It is important to go within and keep company with God. His love power dissolves all sanskaras. One time in 1956, when we were with Baba at Marymount in Ojai, California, Baba told us that we should go out, walk around, see the views, and try to love Baba through nature. He said, This is all due to my love. This whole creation, this nature, all the beauty you see, all came out of me. Then, as we were leaving, he added, and take me with you. Take me with you does not mean just thinking about Baba, but loving him and feeling that he is a part of our consciousness. We can do this even while in the midst of our worldly duties. Jai Baba.
And how about going on to the next? Let's go on and read the next section too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Meditation of the heart. In this materialistic modern age, people seldom take time to sit quietly and withdraw their attention from the world and try to love God and experience their completeness with great patience and inner bliss. Jesus said, in your patience, possess ye your souls. I got to read that. Jesus said, in your patience, possess ye your souls. No idea. Little idea. That is the patience of letting go of the false in order to experience the real, which is within all of us. It is only when we stop wanting and begin to sit back and experience contentment that we will begin to experience fulfillment. So we have to start with contentment. If we focus on experiencing contentment, then we are turning off the motor of wanting. How will we ever experience unshakable inner peace and bliss if we do not stop the wanting motor, even for a few moments now and then? To get ready for it, be content with what you have and are. Feel quietude within. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Sit quietly for a few minutes and feel the beloved's companionship. Be satisfied with his companionship. Of course, this could easily go into spiritual intoxication, which is subtle, not of the body and emotions. Stilling the mind and the emotions is essential for experiencing Baba's sweet love, which is subtle. For those who love Baba, meditation as an exercise is not necessary. Meditation of the heart becomes one's effortless efforts. Okay, Baba.
Yeah, anything to say to those two sections? That one first section was Baba was with his lovers up there at Meher Mount, and when he said to go out and find me in nature. And Jean Shaw, she saw that beautiful tree, that huge, I think it's a live oak. And she, she was going around, Baba, see this flower, see this grass, see the sky. She was going like that. And she said, oh, Bob, see that tree? It would be wonderful, to go, I wish you would go to that tree. And almost immediately, Baba responded and walked down the hill, I guess, or up the hill and went right into you could go, back then you could go inside the tree. His branches came all the way down. Must have been about 30 or 40 feet in diameter, and you could go into the interior of this tree. I think Baba went in there. It's a special place in there. But there, she took him, with her, and Baba confirmed that just by responding to her. But anything to say about? I forgot my book, so I can't even look back and. Well, the second part that we read was meditation. Yeah. But meditating from the heart. Okay, let's see. Is there how many sections? Is there just one last section there? How about Goer? How about reading that?
Sure, Jeff.
How about me?
Effortless life. We are much happier not chasing after wants. Through surrender of our desires, fancies, wild imagination, and ambition, we experience real fulfillment and contentment. Uh-oh. I'm on low battery. Oh boy. Okay, hope I can make it.
Okay.
Meher Baba says, when an individual is thus contented, he does not require any solutions to problems, because the problems that confront worldly persons have disappeared. He has no problems, therefore he does not have to worry about their solution. For him, the complexities of life do not exist because his life becomes utterly simple in the state of desirelessness. We breathe all day, inhaling, and exhaling. But we do not have to tell ourselves, now it's time to inhale, now it's time to exhale. Breathing happens automatically. We do not have to think about it. Eventually, life itself becomes like that. We do not have to consciously decide to do this or that. Life just unfolds automatically. Consciousness then is freed up. It does not have to be caught up at the level of the outer life and confined to that level. Get free of the opposites. Do not go outside to fulfill desires. Work toward achieving a steady state of equanimity in your relationship with Baba, harmonious and attuned. He sustains us, and as we experience this through an inner state of companionship with him, we then experience some of his consciousness. When consciousness rises to the level of the spirit, it goes out to the far corners of the universe, and we live in and through everyone and everything. We live, move, and have our being in God's being, while also keeping in mind that it is all part of God's imaginary creation. Underlying creation is oneness. All are one in spirit. Selflessness merges into selfness for all.
You made
Sorry,
it.
my voice is going.
You made it.
I made it. Voice and battery. Now to get hooked up. Okay.
No, the referring to that what you just read there, Goer.
Yes.
I was with Darwin. He was about 95 at the time. We were sitting in the refectory, and Darwin he never said where he was at. You could kind of infer from, the things he said, what his experience was, but he just never came out. So here he is at 95. I'm thinking, I've known him for decades and decades. I got to find a way to ask him, what his experience is. So, and so I said, Darwin, you have a lot of rare wine in your cellar, and if you die, it's just going to go to your relatives. I think we should bring it up. We should bring it up and enjoy it now. I said, you've been focused on Babu for the last 70 years, year in and year out, day in and day out, moment to moment. What is your experience now? Now, somehow that kind of humorous way of of asking the question, he actually answered, and it was very much related to what Goa read, where he said, and these were his words. He said, just as you breathe in and out all day, and you don't say, now it's time to inhale, now it's time to exhale. He said, life eventually just unfolds, and you're not trying to get things to go this way or that, you know. And so consciousness is freed up at the level of the world, because it's not, it's not trying to get things to go this way or that. It goes up to the level of the spirit, out to the far corners of the universe, and you live in and through everyone. Now I'm looking at this old wizened gentleman across from me. Darwin, you never told us this. I mean, he's part of a, part of his body, his shell of his body is there, but he's romping all over the place. Anyway, that was one of the few revelations that he had of his experience. So anyone, anything to add, anything more to say? I was thinking we might have just one more session, and then I think it might be nice to have a session where people might share something of how this book has affected their life with Baba, their inner life. I don't know if people can, what it has meant in your life. I mean, it certainly has opened up. Like I said, before I met Darwin, I just thought the inner life just happened automatically over there, as I kind of went through the ups and downs of life. But from him, I got the conviction that we can be proactive about our inner life, and we don't have to just be slow victims of growth and development. Yeah. So anyway, anybody have anything to say at the end here? Oh, we got two fish on the line.
Yeah, Jeff, I heard you say that many times, and it's really profoundly affected me. What Darwin has said in this section, eventually life just unfolds, and you're not trying to get it to go this way or that way. It has really helped me a lot in many, many situations, and I realize that it does take a lot of trust that we have to have in Baba, that he will take it in in a direction that you don't have to worry about. So there is definitely a trust part that is involved here, but this particular section has been very, very helpful for me.
Yeah, it softens when you don't have an agenda with life. Everything kind of softens, and it actually turns out to be a more loving life than if you had been in there micromanaging the thing.
Yeah. And there is a Baba quote also, that the words that he said in I don't exactly remember where he said this, but the quote goes, "Whatever life unfolds for you is an act imparted by me in my production of the universe, and you can act best if you are happy in my will." So it goes very well with that. So I keep these two in my head whenever I have to deal with situations. But yeah. Thank you.
There's a line from Mani that was kind of amazing. She said, I mean, this is a slightly different angle, but nothing happens to you without Baba's knowing approval. Think of that. Nothing happens to you without Baba's knowing approval. I mean, that made a profound effect on me. that my beloved would let this happen to me. It's got his signature on it. Oh, I told you, for years and years, decades, all the loving things that happened to me were done by Baba. All the unloving things that happened to me were done by others. It took a long time to say, no, that line, everything happens, nothing happens without Baba's knowing approval. Oh man, I had to reset. I had to reset my computer there. Okay, next.
And not only Baba's approval, but from Baba's love.
Yeah, exactly.
From Baba's love. I want to give a testimony to the Lord that 3 things in the last 6 months that to me were impossible, that I had been doing war with for years in agony, and I finally gave up. But I was begging Baba, that's it, Baba, I'm not going to do one thing. I'm giving it to you, and I'm not going to call. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to pick it up. I'm not going to buy it. Nothing. And I'm going to see what you do. I just like to say, he took care of all of them in a magical way that I couldn't even have imagined that it could happen, beyond what I could have imagined. So just give it to Baba, give it to Baba, give it to Baba.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a lot more options than
Yeah.
me. Yeah, no.
He's got a lot up his sleeve.
Yeah.
Tony?
Yes. 2023 was a very difficult year for me. I'm starting off with Elena being in the hospital Christmas week with sepsis and all sorts of stuff, and last Christmas, and again later in the year, again with sepsis, not as bad. But for me, in particular, in mid-August, something got triggered, and I was in really serious pain till the end of the year. And there were 3 seemingly related health issues, but I couldn't get medical attention. I couldn't get an answer. It was physical pain and the pain of feeling abandoned by Baba. I mean, I knew it wasn't so, but I was literally one night in tears saying, "Why have you forsaken me?" It was such a horrible year, and the pain came to a crescendo with a medical procedure I had to have on the solstice, 21st, and then another one 7 to 8 days later, where I really thought I was going to die. I was kind of about to pass out from the pain, and I thought if I pass out, I won't wake up again. And Baba then gave something that resolved it. It was a homeopathic remedy. It came to mind. I realized it would apply to this, what was going on. 20 minutes later, everything was better. I took a Percocet, but I really didn't need it. Baba had given the thing and resolved it. And I took one more before going to bed, and I woke up, good night's sleep, feeling so happy. I went into Elena's room. Zeke was there, and spent some time. And then I went back into our bedroom, and I'm looking around at Baba's picture and feeling so happy to be pain-free after all of this. And I said, "Baba, thank you, Baba, thank you." And I heard very clearly inside myself, "Thank me for the pain."
That's what he said to Jean Adriel too.
Yeah. It was familiar when I heard it.
That quote out sometime.
She said, "I thank you for all the joy and all the pain of living with you." And because I looked it up later, and
Yeah.
Baba said, "Just thank me for the pain." And I understood it now. I really got it. I didn't get it back then, but
Yeah, that's
it's the gift.
I have a thought to share this because, some people, they feel like I'm not feeling Baba, or haven't felt Baba for a while, and or I needed to feel him and I felt cut off from him. Here's a beautiful story that Amrit shares. Amrit was married to Dara, Baba's nephew, but Baba was up in Dehradun back in the part of the new life, and in some years afterwards, he spent a lot of time in Dehradun. And she was just, I think, originally maybe 4 years old and 5 and 6, and she was with Baba there. Baba was there, and he was, you might say, like the Christ, robust and strong and healthy and everything. And now Baba is in the latter, 40 years before, 40 days before Baba dropped his body, he is arranging her to marry Dara, Amrit. She was the daughter of one of Baba's Mandali, Kumar. And so she comes down to Marazad because the marriage is going to, take place there. They're arranging it. So she gets down to Marabad, and it's kind of Marazad, excuse me, and she gets there late, and she's in the main house there, and the women Mandali are trying to, I think, figure out where she's going to stay and sleep and everything. Baba has already retired for the day, and so they're being kind of quiet and everything. But then they hear Baba clap, and so I think Mara goes in, and Baba says he wants to see her. So now, see, she's about either 17 or 19, I can't remember, but she hasn't seen Baba in many, many years. And she goes in that interior door, and Baba's sitting on the bed, and she sees him, and he looks, this is 40 days before Baba dropped his body. He's so frail, and she thinks, this is God? How could this be God? He doesn't look at all. She's just crestfallen. She did say the tears were coming down her eyes, and Baba indicated for her to come around to the front of the bed. So she's standing in front of Baba looking down at him, and she just puzzled. How could this be God looking like that? But then Baba opened up his arms, and she went into his arms, and she felt that love that she always experienced with him. And after the embrace, Baba gave her a look, and she just interpreted Baba as saying, you people make me have to prove myself. He had to rise to the occasion. She couldn't accept him just as he was. And in the same way, in our own relationship to Baba, he makes these, probably a lot of these, approaches and signs and indications and everything he gives to us. Sometimes we're making him do that, and let him be free to respond as he wants with us, to give us that intimacy, coming from him from time to time. But if we demand it all the time, it may be forcing him to rise to the occasion. I know there was Arnavas was once not feeling Baba, and she complained that she wasn't, and Baba said, I didn't say to feel me, I said to love me. So that's very significant. Anyway, I was very touched by that. Anyway, we got a final quote from somebody.
I have one, Jeff.
Okay, and then we'll have a few moments of silence.
Okay. Baba says, God's love penetrates all illusion, while no amount of illusion can penetrate God's love.
Yeah, read it once again.
God's love penetrates all illusion, while no amount of illusion can penetrate God's love.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Thank you all, and thanks for all that you shared. It was beautiful. Oh, Johannes. Oh, you're just saying hello?
Well, actually, we're saying goodbye.
Goodbye, goodbye.
Time for bed.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to go back to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. We've got to have Hasleen finish it off.
All right. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Thank you, Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, thank you. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.